Hello and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, I am Shannon Wells, a Christian mentor and business and life coach for the body of Christ. Today I want to talk to you about the topic of monitoring spirits, and the Lord had really put it heavy on my heart to come on and share about monitoring spirits with you all for the past couple of days or so. And I think it's so interesting how the Lord will confirm that he wants me to share something, because maybe I'll see someone else talk about it, or I'll see someone else explain how this is something they're dealing with. And I know that I've talked to a couple of you who have booked life coaching calls who have said that this is something that you may be dealing with in your life. And so this is just more confirmation on top of confirmation that I really want to come out and do a quick word on this for those of you who may be dealing with a monitoring spirit. And what this video is going to be about is, how do you know if you're dealing with a monitoring spirit? How do you know it's a monitoring spirit, right? And what do you do if you know, okay, now I know I'm dealing with a monitoring spirit? What do you do after that, right? Because sometimes it's not always a monitoring spirit, right? Because there's some things that you could be dealing with in your life where it may seem like you're dealing with the monitoring spirit, but actually it's something else. Maybe it's just a one-time occurrence and it's not a pattern. But when it becomes a pattern, then you know that it's something else that could be going on. So I want to first take you to 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8, and it says, "Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour." So what is this telling us? It says that your adversary, which is the devil, which is Satan, he moves about like a roaring lion, and he's seeking who he may devour. So what do you have to do to seek something out? You have to be watching it. You have to be observing it. You have to be monitoring it to a certain extent. And so what that tells us is that Satan is always monitoring you. It's important for you to know, especially as a child of God, Satan is always monitoring you. It's important for you to know that Satan is not all-knowing. He isn't all-knowing like God is. He doesn't know everything. And so he sets up systems. He has very strategic systems and principalities in place to monitor your every move, especially if you are anointed or chosen one of God. The enemy has systems in place to try to monitor you. So it's important for you to understand when you may be dealing with this and what to do. And so it's also important for you to understand that higher ranking principalities use monitoring spirits to report back to them what's going on in your life. It's a very strategic system that the enemy sets up. And so he does this because he's not all-knowing. So I want to point out to you, I have 4 points here, and I want to point out to you, how do you know that you're dealing with a monitoring spirit? And these 4 points are just some of the things that I haven't heard anyone else maybe share. That's very important for you to take note of, because these could be very key factors that you're dealing with a monitoring spirit. And going back to, again, if this is something that you're experiencing maybe on a one-time occurrence, then this may, you may want to continue to watch and use discernment and wisdom of God. But if this is a pattern in your life, then I have something that I'm going to share with you at the end, a couple of key things that you should take note of to begin to do if you're dealing with a monitoring spirit. So the first thing, how do you know, right? The first thing, do you feel a presence around you all the time or most of the time? Do you feel, and it doesn't have to be a physical person, right? But right now I'm talking about, do you feel like a presence, but you don't see anyone, but you feel a presence around you all the time or most of the time? Specifically, even more so when you're doing something that you know God has told you to do, when you're working on a project, when you are doing ministry work, when you're doing whatever it is, when you're doing something that you know God has told you to do, do you feel a presence around you? Do you feel a presence of fear? Do you feel a thickness in the air? Do you feel that someone is there monitoring you or watching you most of the time or all the time? That may be a clear sign, and this is a pattern, that there's a monitoring spirit there, right? And the second one is there a real physical person there? Is there a real physical person or people, multiple people, who are watching you on a consistent basis? And this isn't just a one-time occurrence where maybe you go out shopping or you are driving at the stoplight and someone glances over at you. This isn't just like a one-time occurrence, but this is a pattern where you're noticing that very specific people are watching you on a consistent basis. Like they always have eyes on you, or they're monitoring your every move. And what I mean by this is, it's not just once in a blue moon, but it's an actual pattern, right? Think about this. The third point is there a person or multiple people that are keeping tabs on you? And what I mean by that is they need to know what you're doing at all times. They need to know where you're going all the time. They need to know your next plan, your next, like, what do you have next? What do you have planned for yourself next in your life, right? They need you to go into detail on like what kind of food you like, or what kind of clothes you like to wear, or how you want to wear your hair, or what you're going to be doing next in your life. They need to know every single detail, down to the very tiniest detail of your life, because they're keeping tabs on you. Is there one person in your life that's doing this, or is there multiple people? Is there a group of people that are doing this? Some of you are in work environments where it is packed with monitoring spirits, where they're just monitoring you constantly. And I'm not talking about where it's a sense of like micromanagement, because yes, in a sense that could be a group of monitoring spirits within a company, but I'm talking about where maybe there is just like, it's clear as day, there's a monitoring spirit there that's monitoring you outside the context of what work includes, if that makes sense. Maybe you're in a work environment and you have a coworker, or you have multiple coworkers who are wanting to know more about your life in terms of what you're doing outside of work, right? That may be a monitoring spirit in play. Specifically if it is happening on a consistent basis, it's a pattern there, right? And I'm going to get into why this is, and it ties into flattery as well. This is the fourth one. Is, are you dealing with a person or multiple people who are constantly flattering you? And the reason why this is important to note is because I want to read to you the actual definition of flattery. It means, this is a textbook definition, it means excessive or insincere praise given especially to further one's own interest. That's what the definition it means of flattery. And it says it's given. This is not a compliment when people are giving you flattery. Many people confuse compliments with flattery, and it's a difference, a very huge difference. Compliments are just freely given, but flattery is given to you because that person is expecting something in return. And what that person is doing is priming you to make you comfortable, so that you can open up to them more and share with them more about your life. People typically flatter you, and this is a consistent pattern, so that you can feel comfortable in their presence enough to open up to them, to share with them more about your life, therefore feeding into them, keeping tabs on you, what you're doing, what time you're doing it, where you're going, and X, Y, and Z, right? This is really important to know. And these people, it's almost because, I like sharing with you all that it's really hard for us, unless you go out there and seek deliverance, or a deliverance minister, or unless you do a lot of self-reflection or a lot of journaling. It's really hard for you to know what demons you have within you. And so these people a lot of times aren't very self-aware of what's going on, that they may be harboring a monitoring spirit. But this is something that could be going on. It's important. This is why I say that the spirit realm is more real than the natural realm. It's important that you understand what's going on within you and what's going on around you, especially in the realm of the spirit. So what can you do? I want to move on to what can you do if you know that you're dealing with a monitoring spirit. Also, the 4 things that I listed, these are just very key things that can be telltale signs if you're dealing with a monitoring spirit, but it doesn't mean that it's exclusive to this. Like there's obviously other signs for you to tell if you're dealing with a monitoring spirit, but these are some of the key things that I've noticed, that I wanted to list out for you all. So what can you do, right? So first, one of the most important things is for you to learn how to be private, for you to learn how to live a private life. And I did a video on this a while ago, and it was about when God blesses you, keep your mouth shut, right? But what I want to talk about now more specifically is before God blesses you, it's also important for you even more than ever to keep your mouth shut, right? It's more important for you then more than ever to be private about the plans of God in your life, right? God has plans for you, and it's important for you to protect that like it's a newborn child. Protect your small beginning. Protect the things that God has promised you before they come into full fruition, before they're made manifest in your life. It's important for you to protect those things, right? Because what can happen then, because we know 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 8 says the devil moves about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. If the plans and the vision that God has for you is still premature, it's not yet ready to be made manifest, you are opening the door for unnecessary warfare in your life when you're just sharing things that haven't fully been played out in your life, plans that haven't fully been made manifest in your life. You're opening the door for unnecessary warfare. So it's important for you to live a private life unless God gives you permission to share, right? Unless God gives you permission to share your testimony. It's important for you to live a private life because you don't want that unnecessary warfare. It's not to say that God isn't going to, if you do that, it's not to say that God isn't going to turn it around and make it work for your good, but it's to say that you don't want to go through that warfare in the first place to begin with. So really be wise with the information that you're sharing with other people. And obviously, if there are strangers that are following you, then of course you want to take actual legal measures in the natural realm. But this is just, in the beginning, be private to begin with, right? There are many people who share their, like, how much money they make with other people online. There are many people who share things with, God bless them, and they're like, oh, God blessed me with this much money, or God did this, or God blessed me with this new house, and they're oversharing, and that's beautiful that the Lord has done that. But then many times, because they're not being wise with the information they're sharing, that opens the door for unnecessary warfare. Maybe they may get robbed, or maybe, the people who aren't submitted to God and are worldly come in and try to take away, right, the things that the Lord has blessed them with, right? And we understand that, yes, the things that the Lord has blessed you with is yours for the keeping, but you have to use wisdom so that you're not opening the door for the enemy, because you have your own free will. And what we understand is that the Lord isn't going to force you to do anything. He's not going to force anything on you. He's not going to move above your free will. Let me know if that makes sense. And so, again, protect your small beginning. And then the last thing is, it's so important for you to consistently, every single day, cover yourself in prayer. The enemy is not resting. He doesn't take a day off on monitoring your life. He doesn't take a day off on being an accuser of the saints. So it's important for you to cover yourself in prayer daily on a consistent basis. This is so important. Also, and I'll leave you all with that. Also, I cover you all in prayer. So I'll continue to be praying for you all, especially for those of you who that you've been dealing with a monitoring spirit. If those of you who have prayer requests concerning this, leave it in the comments, because I do scroll through and I pray with you all. Even if I don't have the time to respond back to everyone, because there's just not enough time for that, I do read and I pray for you all. I add you to a prayer list. So if you know that you're dealing with this, if you have prayer requests, leave it in the comments and I will pray for you all. And for those of you who are seeking godly mentorship, I always like to extend the invitation for you to join the Promised Land Mentorship. The option is available down for you below. If you have any questions on that, please email me on it and I will try to get back to you. Put in the subject line Promised Land Mentorship so I know that's what it's about. And for those of you who are seeking life coaching or business coaching, those options are for you down below as well.